Hello everyone, welcome to my submission into AlgonquinTTS Cursed Conlang Circus. This is Radiator, the language of Radiator Springs, from the hit Pixar movie Cars. Now, cars are not humans. As such, they have their own car mouths that make a car sounds. Now, the consonant positions are pretty different from humans, however it works in a similar way, with it going from front to back. So we first have the manifolder. Those are kind of like the bilabial sounds. They have a little bits of metal that can open and close, and that can allow them to get more or less air for their engines. We also have the griller, kind of like dental sounds, except instead of being able to move their jaws, which they can't, they instead have to retract their teeth to like stick out their tongue or do anything. So their tongue just kind of touches that. We also have the coursier. That is when the tongue touches one of their air filters, the front one. And we have the finiral, which is when they touch the back one. And it's named the coursiero and finiral because it's the coarse air filter and then the fine air filter. And then there's the engule, which is the tongue touching the engine. There's also some manners of articulation. The only one of note that isn't one that humans have is the gapive, where because of the way cars' mouths work, they can actually put their tongue in between the air filters, and they can have the root of their tongue touch the engine and create a trill stop thing with the vibrations from the engine. Now, vowels is where it gets a little bit interesting. So, they only have 3 vowel positions, front, mid, and back, and that's just mainly where the tongue is in the mouth. However, the vowels can also be differentiated via gear. Now, there's 6 gears that the cars have, and most vowel systems for cars go and distinguish by gear, so they constantly have to switch the gear their engine is in order to talk. Here's what the car phonetic alphabet looks like.
From top to bottom, left to right, this sounds like.
And now, the B movie, as pronounced by a text-to-speech, because I'm not pronouncing that, I can't make those sounds. You may have noticed that all of the text is color-coded, and that is for all of the various grammatical particles. We'll touch more on that in a bit, but first, we need to go and talk about mechanical life. Mechanical life is something we need to touch on because some of them are sapient, and some might not be. So, cars we know for a fact are sapient. They can communicate with other cars. With planes, they're definitely sapient. However, they can't communicate with other cars because they have their engine above their mouth instead of behind it, like cars do. Boats, they might be sapient, they probably are. There's no way they can communicate with cars. The engine's on the complete other side, so they'd have nothing to produce sound with. Trains, we haven't really seen much of in the Cars universe, and the one time they had a train, I did not see that, so I could be sapient, could communicate with cars, I don't know. And submarines, from my understanding, the only time we've ever seen a submarine is as a shark for a Nemo poster. So, there's no way these things are sapient. I'm sorry, they're sharks. And they can't communicate because they don't have an air filter. They're sharks, but car themed. Cars probably respect other mechanical life, but there's no way for them to really tell that the others are sapient. So that's why this bit comes in. So, genders in Radiator are based on animacy. The first gender we have, the most animate, is the car gender, which is specifically for other cars and planes, which sounds like. The next one we have is the metallic gender, which is specifically for non-car and non-plane mechanical life, which is. We also have animals, which is specifically for non-metallic animals, which is. The next one we have is plants, which is specifically for plants. And the final one is the least animate one. It is the other gender. It's specifically for inanimate objects. And it sounds like Radiator has a couple more particles, that being the cases. So, there's 3 real cases here and also a marked mood. So we have the nominative, which is, we have the accusative, which is, and we have the genitive, which is. You may have noticed that they sound real similar. That is because they are only distinguished by the gear of the vowel. There's also the optative mood, which sounds like that's the only one of these that has a consonant. There's also some other affixes. We have a negative, plural, and definite. The negative sounds like, the plural sounds like, and the definite sounds like. So that's really about it for the grammar. There is a couple other things first. Let's take a look at car anatomy. So we can see they have large brains, we can see the mouth. We'll get to the mouth itself in a bit. One thing to note is it says plustrum unipars at the top. We're going to get to that, don't worry. So here's where we get to that. So car taxonomy. So they're all in the Theriapellis family, and there's 3 genuses, that being Arenus, Plustrum, and Aquae. So the main ones of the Theriapellis family are Arenus laminae, which is planes, Arenus ignacer, which is blimps, Plustrum unipars, which is, as we said earlier, cars, Plustrum plurispartis, which is trains, Aquae spulundum, which is boats, and Aquae inflafluctus, which is subs. So here's the diagram of the car mouth that I was saying we'd get to. So, we can see the manifolds and grille in the front. We can see the grille cavity where the grille retracts into. We can also see the corsere and venereal filters. The tongue is interesting in that, unlike human tongues, the tongue is actually kind of still attached to the sides of the mouth. So there needs to be a cavital vent underneath the tongue to make sure that the pressure doesn't create a vacuum seal with the bottom of the mouth because of just air pressures we're dealing with due to the engine. So that's where all of the manners and types of articulation came from. So that's really about it. Thanks for watching. Once again, this is a submission for Agnes Schwa's Cursed Conlang Circus. The links to the text-to-speech program, the pack that I used for the text-to-speech program, and a dictionary will be in the description.